Hey guys, welcome to the latest edition of How You Going, Sharing Stories with Tom. Pretty excited today. We've got a young lady that is making a real change in the world at the moment. I've been lucky enough to know Kelly for a while now, and so today we're having a chat with Kelly Bergsma, known at the moment for being the CEO of the Good Chat Foundation. Almost messed that up straight away. So we're going to have a bit of a chat with her today, ask her what it's like about or who she is in her day-to-day life, and asking her the question what it takes to, or what it means to be proud to be her. But as in all of our episodes, we like to bring back the question that the diggers used to genuinely ask their mates because they cared about how they were going. So Kelly, how you going?
Well, first of all, thanks, Tom, for having me on the show. Going pretty good today. Had a busy, productive morning, photo shoot, so that's always nice to start your day in a creative way. And other than that, working from home, settling in and seeing what the day brings.
Great stuff, great stuff. It's always good to get up and be productive in the morning, especially now it's starting to cool off a little bit. It's good. It gets a little bit harder to get out from underneath the covers and get started, so well done on that.
Yeah. It's actually freezing for those who haven't been outside yet. It's very cold.
Well, for all those people listening in New Zealand, we're talking about WA cold here, so it's like maybe still 10 degrees, but that's what we're used to now. So
yeah, it's actually mild summer weather for Europe, so it's okay.
Yeah, exactly right. Oh, you've definitely got the Europe connection. So,
Yeah.
Kelly, thanks for coming on and having the chat. We've been lucky enough to catch up a couple of times now and have a chat about the amazing work that you're doing with the Good Chat Foundation, which we'll cover off in a sec. But for everybody who doesn't know you, tell me, where were you born? Where did you grow up? Who's Kelly?
I grew up in Europe, so I was born in Germany, lived on an army base for the first 10 years of my life. My dad was in the Dutch army. My mum is Australian, so that's where the Australian connection is coming from. We ended up moving to the Netherlands. Again, Dad got redeployed, so I did my schooling in both Germany and in Holland before moving back to Australia when I was 18 by myself. I decided that the European climate wasn't necessarily what I wanted for my future, so I decided to give Australia a go, and I haven't looked back.
Wow. Okay. So growing up as a colloquial army brat, I'm guessing, moving from Germany.
You could say that.
Moving to the Netherlands. I guess that sense of finding yourself, being able to create a personality was pretty much prevalent from the get-go.
It was definitely something that was unlike other kids growing up. I think the challenges that army brats, so to speak, army kids before we it's a sensitive word. No, I think for army children, it's definitely a very different challenge. Like from very early on in life, you're confronted with abandonment, with having to deal with one parent going off to a deployment or a mission or anything. So you rely quite heavily on one parental figure, which, yes, you build a very strong bond, but also growing up, I believe my dad, his first deployment was when I was 2 years old, and he went on quite a few deployments. So growing up, the understanding of having two parents isn't always there. And especially growing up on an army base, that is actually your normal life. So what you come to understand as being a normal family household is definitely not the case for other families. And that's something that once we moved to the Netherlands and I went to a public school and was surrounded by families who had a different upbringing, it became the question of, okay, so you have two parental figures in your household and they are both helping you with your education, helping you with sport, whereas we were one big family on the army base, but you are always confronted with the fact that some parents don't come home. And,
wow.
When you're 5 or 6 years old and one of your schoolmates has to go through grief at a depth that is unlike anything else, that's not something you understand as a kid, but even now, later on in life, you kind of go, that wasn't normal. So
Yeah.
those challenges from an early age are definitely present in my everyday life now.
Wow. Yeah, and just even explaining it like that is a level that I know I never thought of before, and even I don't think a lot of people would come to think of. And you're right, like in one sense you've got that connection which you perceive as just normal, having all these other people around and having probably a lot more discipline and having that. But then that other side, that great loss and that great disconnection from a young age. So wow, yeah, thanks for sharing that. And so, like, going to the Netherlands then, and stepping into, like, having that probably first realization that, hang on, this isn't what I'm used to. This is this first big change and this first probably life moment that it's, hang on, everything's not the same. Everything that I've perceived isn't the normal per se. Can you remember that?
I can very clearly remember that. It's something that, once again, you grow up in an army base, and that's, for me, for the first 10 years, you learn a lot of your morals and your values, and you form a lot of your beliefs during that stage. So for me, soldiers, when I see a soldier, whether in uniform or if someone identifies themselves as a soldier, I immediately feel safe. And what I came to realize moving to the Netherlands was that the perception of soldiers is more in the form of they cause harm to innocent people. And
Yeah.
that's a very harsh realization to have as a child when you are 11 or 12 years old, and soldiers are your heroes because you grew up in an army base. And seeing, the discipline, the mannerisms of soldiers, both on the army base and off the army base, they are always there for each other. And within the army, they incorporate the buddy system. And it's something that as children, you apply to your life, because
Yeah.
in school, you have your buddy, and that's normal, and that creates that sense of safety and that sense of belonging. But it also gives you a purpose, because living on an army base, there is such a purpose behind that. And when I moved to the Netherlands, the first thing I was confronted with was bullying, because
Yeah.
I looked different, but also my dad was in the army, and the perception for the public in not necessarily the Netherlands, but in that school system, in that environment, was that soldiers go to war and kill people. So your
Yeah.
dad is a killer. And as a child, to be told your dad is a killer, and you're trying to defend not only your dad, but also everyone else in your life that you know. Like, my godfather is a soldier, like everyone around me,
Yeah.
like all my heroes are soldiers. So it's not necessarily a personal attack, but immediately you feel like you do not belong. And that's, at the
Yeah.
age of 12, will not change anytime soon.
Yeah, and that's actually in that reverse way, like, and it's what we're talking about through this whole series, and it's like those moments in your life that create the person who you are, and from the
Definitely.
get-go, your values and your morals and your beliefs that you spent 10 years creating, and we all know that in a child that creates the adults that we are today. And for someone to then, you use the word bullying, but without knowing, actually challenging you as a 12 year old from the get-go, yeah, it must be pretty confronting. All right, so thanks for sharing that. Wow, that's deep straight away from first question. I love it. So
Yeah.
okay, so you're having this pretty, I'm not going to say traumatic moment, but like this question to you, your values, your beliefs at a young age. And then, so I won't touch on high school too much, but 18, you decide to venture off into the big wide world and come to Australia. Like, had you been to Australia before?
I had travelled here with my mum,
Yeah.
and I honestly hated it. It
Yeah.
was, I had travelled quite often to the United States, which I
Okay.
loved. And my dream was always, because I was playing soccer all throughout high school, and there was always a prospect that, there was potential for a scholarship
Yeah.
to go to America to play soccer. So I was so focused, near on obsessed with going to America to play soccer and to have the American dream, that when that became unavailable to me, I was looking for another way out. Because again, moving to Holland, I didn't feel like I belonged there. It wasn't home. It was very strange. I felt out of place, and I started looking for another way. And I was, from memory, I was 17 when I realized, hey, I can actually apply for my Australian passport by the time I turn 18.
Yep.
And this is a story that comes up many, many Christmases in our household, is that I did this behind my mother's back. My parents were divorced, and I did my research. I went to the Australian Embassy in The Hague. I applied for my passport, and I announced to my mum, hey, I'm going to Australia for a month, and I'm going to visit universities. Can you drop me at the airport? That then turned into me coming back and saying, hey, Mum, I'm moving to Australia, and I've set a date. And I think I'm an only child. At that point, very selfish thinking of saying, I do not belong here. I need to find my own way. I need to escape, but I need to physically escape from this environment to actually feel normal. I did that by moving to Australia. And I very clearly remember I was flying Singapore Airlines, and I saw the plane come to the gate, and it felt like the chains were just falling off my back. Like I was finally free. Because I could start my own life. And as terrifying as it was to say, okay, I'm packing up, I'm leaving, at the same time, it felt like I finally had my freedom. Whether that was for a brief moment or not, I felt like this was me. I was doing this. I was no longer in a position where people were controlling me. And I think growing up for the first 18 years, my parents have been supportive in my school years, in, you know, my sporting career, but it was always that moment of, who am I? And how am I going to find out who I am? I can't do that here. I have to leave. And that must have been very confronting for my parents. I think it still is, but it was the only way for me.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm just going to touch on a few words that you said within that sentence and that description, because that resonates with me so much, because I left New Zealand when I was 17. And you threw the word like left the chains, the freedom, but you also use the word selfish like 3 or 4 times in there. Right now, why do you feel, and explain a little bit more, like why do you say selfish?
Because I knew the hurt that I was causing my parents. And I think if you as a person have the belief that this is what you must do for yourself, that comes with consequences for other people. And knowing that your actions are causing that hurt, in my opinion, is a selfish way. And it might be, you know, for your best interest, but the trade-off is that you are knowingly hurting others.
Okay. Yep. And that's where that word can get really muddled, and like selfish is one of my favorite words, right? And so you can't have selfish without yourself. And what you realized, and through all of, and I'm sure we could open the book about soccer and high school and things like that, but is that you needed to do something for you, and you were discovering who you were, and your values and your beliefs have been challenged, and you're at that stage where you needed to find you, and the way that you saw to do it, to discover who Kelly was to get on that plane and do it. And I know, as we're about to find out, like, there was rocky roads, but it's an amazing the person who you've become. And so thinking back on that now, and that word, like, yes, it's so hard to take that step away and potentially hurt or leave something that you love so much. And I think we put so much pressure on ourselves when we do it. And I know that I did, that it was almost, it's almost a security blanket that I can blame that I'm hurting someone else to not put myself, not make myself vulnerable and get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know for me moving, it was like, okay, it's going to happen. But then it's like, hang on, this is reality now. And I'm decided to move to another country to escape a few demons and actually
Yep.
have no more excuses for being a shit person, pretty much.
Yep.
And I could then blame it on someone else, say, oh yeah, but I can't leave this person or I can't leave that person. And it wasn't until you break that vulnerability cycle that you can actually believe in yourself again.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think with me leaving as well, it was the motivation behind it was that I saw all of my friends follow the same path. They all went to uni. They all were in long-term relationships since high school. Quite a few were already purchasing homes. There was some that, you know, in their minds, their path was, I'm going to get my bachelor degree, then I'm going to marry this person, then I'm having children. And I saw this happening and I went, that's not me. I don't know who I am,
Awesome.
but I know that that's not me. And I need to get away from this because I feel trapped by the idea that this expectation is being put on me. I'm from a very small town in Holland and I love my friends dearly, but looking at them now, I'm like, I don't know if I could have done that. I don't know if I could have settled in my early 20s and say, I'm a mum now and I have 2 or 3 children that I drop off at school and then I'm a housewife or, you know, I'm starting my career. It wasn't for me and I knew that, but I also knew that in order to get away from that, I had to leave the country.
You had to create something. You had to create the person who Kelly was, and you know what, you took that step. So well done, and thank you for sharing that, because I totally agree with what you were saying there, and I recognize, like, I've got mates that's who they are, and there's nothing wrong with that. That was their dream, that was their passion to do it, and you know what, I was quite jealous because they knew what they wanted to do. And they had their...
I'm still jealous of that.
Yeah. And not that I want to be settled down and having children or anything like that, because my path and who I am is driven by different values and different beliefs. So, well, thank you for that. So then, going to do something a little bit out of the ordinary or out of order, because you're 18, and I know there's some really cool stuff that happened in the middle, and now you're in Australia now, and you're only what, like 21 or something like that.
27, thanks.
Oh, hang on. I'll cut that bit out. Yeah, sorry.
I wish I was 21. I can do it all over again, please.
No, you don't. It makes who you are. So, you've come to Australia, and I'm sure that there's some hurdles and everything like that, and you're finding who you are. Okay.
Yeah.
And then so... Give us a bit of an insight about what it was like, not straight away, but maybe 3-6 months in, when you got to Australia, you're in a different place, you've realised, oh no, what have I done? Why have I left everyone? What's happening? Or the other way, wow, this is the best thing I've ever done. Why did I take so long? Yeah, where were you?
The latter. I was so happy. I was free. I was studying film. One of the big things actually for me that allowed me to feel that was that I was actually speaking a different language. And I was fluent in English before, but I was able to make the connection to freedom a lot quicker because I had my Dutch heritage, but no one here understood me when I was speaking Dutch. So I always had that safety bubble, but I was speaking English. And it's very similar, if I relate it back to the acting world, is when you play a character and your character speaks in a different accent, it's a lot easier to get into that character and stay in that character. And I was in no way acting when I was here, but it's a lot easier to adjust to a new life when it comes with different rules almost. And one of those rules was, I'm getting my education in English. I'm speaking English all the time. I'm learning about different slang, different mannerisms. The culture is different. So it was fun. It was a new experience. It's exciting. It's an adventure. And it's almost captivating to look back at it and say, I don't know who she was, but she was definitely loving life because everything was fun and new. Yeah. So, it's like you throw yourself into this situation. No one forced me to do it. Yep. But by putting myself in that situation, I learned that my independence was there, even though I grew up in a very dependent situation on an army base. I was very independent, and my parents raised me to be very independent, and I could finally prove to everyone, hey, I can do this. I am my own person, and I am studying film, and I know that this is making me happy because I truly feel happy.
Wow. Now, yeah, that's powerful. That really is powerful. And when you say, and again, I'm just going to pick on one thing you said there. prove to everybody. What do you mean by prove to everybody? Was it proving to everybody else, or was it proving to you?
No, well, it's a combination, but I truly believe that as humans, we want validation both externally and internally, and that validation has to come from somewhere. So you have to prove yourself, whether that is in a skill or in who you are, that you are worthy, whether that is worthy of love, worthy of an opportunity. It has to come from somewhere. And no matter what someone does, you do it with a purpose, for a purpose. So you don't just try to achieve something simply for the fact that you achieve it and then you put it on the back burner. Like, you want something in return. And it's just human instinct that, you know, you kick a goal on the soccer field, your reaction is that you cheer because you kicked that goal. But second to that, did anyone see it?
Yeah.
Because did you see my goal? Did you see that I scored that goal? Because it's no longer about like, yeah, cool, we're ahead. You turn to the sideline and people are cheering for you. And that's the same thing with discovering yourself, is that when you realize that you are independent, there is that brief moment where you go, hey, mom, dad, are you seeing this? I'm actually doing this. Like, can you either acknowledge it, or are you watching me? And it's those little things where you go, okay, I can do this. I am worthy of doing it as well. But with a graduation of any kind, like you look at high school, you look at, you know, university, people come to celebrate with you and you want to celebrate your wins with you. And it's very hard when you are in a situation growing up where those wins are the fact that your dad or your mum came home from war, because that's the celebration that you get used to. And there is no celebrating that, you know, they are going to war. That's a loss.
Yeah.
So you're always, for me growing up, it's been, you know, okay, we're saying goodbye. The win is when we say hello again. And I think that back and forth, when I moved to Australia, I said goodbye. I was the one leaving. And for my parents, they were put in a position where they said, okay, yeah, she's not going off to war, but we also don't know when we'll say hello again. Yeah. And so when I was proving to myself and to them, like, hey, I'm okay, I'm doing this, you don't have to worry about me. It was about me, but it was also about them. And awesome. I think it just comes full circle with that, where proving something and getting that validation and recognition, every human needs it, no matter how independent you are.
Love it. Love it. Wow. I'm glad I sent you through the script earlier on too, because you're nailing it.
I'm very good at winging interviews, contrary to popular belief.
Oh no, hey, like this is it, and because look, we were hopefully talking about your favourite subject, and that's Kelly, so it's great.
Well, I wasn't good at it, but yeah.
So then, and then a pretty big moment happened after studying film, I'm guessing.
A lot of big moments happened after studying film. I had to make another relatively big decision. I once again felt restless, as I do. So I studied film, and then I noticed the opportunity was there for a scholarship to the Vancouver Film School to study producing, which in my eyes was an escape, because I could go to Vancouver. I wanted to make it in film. My big dream, like, I had a whole list of things I wanted to achieve before I turned 30. And one of those was work on an American film set. Getting an American visa is not easy. Getting a visa for Canada was quite easy. But then the scholarship presented itself, and I very clearly remember my dad saying on the phone, Kelly, there is one scholarship and there's a lot of applicants. Like, ground yourself and be realistic here. You're probably not going to get it. And I took that as, watch me, I will get it. I'm not stopping. And I got it. And I went to Vancouver. And then they said to me at my intake, they said, also, side note, you cannot work on this visa. You can only work like X amount of hours, which would not even cover rent. And at that same moment, I went, well, I don't know how you expect me to live here. I am here now, but this isn't sustainable for me. I have to do this for 12 to 18 months. What do you suggest I do? And they said, ask your parents for, $10 or $20,000. And I went, okay, no, that's not the world that I live in. I would never put that on my parents. I would never go to my parents and say, hi, I want to study. Please give me $20,000 so I can live. And so I networked for the whole week to try and get a job, which was admittedly to convince myself to stay in Vancouver and say no to the scholarship. But nobody had ever said no to a scholarship. And then I got offered a job on Arrow on a TV series. And I went, you know what? I have an income now. This is exactly what I wanted. Thanks, but no thanks for the scholarship.
Wow.
And
okay.
I'm taking my job on Arrow. And that decision was very difficult. And I wanted the validation and approval of my parents when I made that decision. And there was a standoff because my mum is a big fan of studying, whereas my dad is more like, take the opportunity and take what you can get from it. You can always go back to school later. Yeah. And that's what I took. And I went, you know what? I'm going to work on Arrow. I only had 3 days guaranteed. Yeah. And they said, prove yourself. If you do a good job for these 3 days, we might offer you the season. And I went, wow, the odds are not good, but I'm taking the risk. And I've never looked back.
Yeah, wow. So what did you actually do on Arrow?
So I was a producer's assistant. Wow. So we just were on sets all day, every day. It was long days. I learned a lot about myself and about my limits and how far you can push your own limits. And I also learned that at some point you need to admit to yourself that you've reached every possible limit and you need to get the hell out of there. Hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, it would be. I'm guessing that like these and what you're talking about, these massive moments is the evolution and you becoming who you are and like chasing these dreams, but also realizing that, you know what, sometimes these dreams do come with these challenges that you do need to make, and you get to these crossroads and it's up to you to make that decision for you. And I know there's been a few instances with me, and it could have gone this way, could have gone that way. But again, there's no looking back on it now. You've got to learn from that experience, and it definitely sounds like you have. So then,
and I think what you said as well, like the moment you moved here, you are faced with almost like a blank canvas, and for you to move here and just go, you know what, I'm going for it. It's one of the most liberating things. It's scary, but you also learn so much so quickly that you otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn.
Oh, by all means. And that's it. You're right. It's a clean slate, but it is also that it's okay to be vulnerable in that state. And I think with this world that we're going through at the moment with the whole, we won't even mention the word, but what's happening outdoors and that we can't get out to sea and these sort of things, it's almost given us permission to be, you know what, okay, the world has got me here, but I can strip it right back, be vulnerable and do what I want to do to create the best version of me that I can. So exciting. So how did you end up back in Australia then?
I had to leave Vancouver. It was getting to the point where both mentally and physically it became too much. Mm-hmm. So, you know, the work on a film set is very structured, but it's long hours, it's long days. And I was observing those around me and how their life was structured and what they were actually getting out of life from working in film. and some were doing really amazing things and were loving life. But what I saw most around me was depression, anxiety, and almost like very close to unhealthy behavior that was escalating.
Yeah.
And at the time I was 22, and I realized that's not the life I wanted, because if I pursued that 20 years from now, that would be me. And I made a very conscious decision then to leave, and I had to physically leave the place, because I came there for film and I had no intention of staying to do anything else. So I quite impulsively booked a ticket and got out of there. I don't remember the time frame, but I believe it was 2 days prior to me leaving that I called my boss and said I quit. Wow. And I'm leaving. You cannot convince me to stay. Yep. I'm leaving. It's done. And yeah, once I make a decision, it's done. It's set. I'm out.
Yeah, right. And then boom. So then you've chased this dream. You've gone to another country, in another country. Now you're back in Australia. Sort of like where? How were you? Like who was Kelly then? Like what was the thoughts inside? What was the feelings like? Who were you?
That's a very good question. That was 6 years ago, and I think when I came back, you have this perception that when you're a go-getter and you chase a dream, you're going to make it happen. And it's very hard to let go of that, especially in a moment where you are surrounded by everything that could create that goal and make it a reality. Because I had all the opportunities. The only thing that was missing was my motivation to chase after it, because I did not want to become a very depressed person 20 years from now that was only in it for the fact that I was on a film set. So letting go of that, I definitely cried on the plane. Like, there's no doubt about it. Leaving there, I felt like I had failed, but I had to leave in order to save myself. Because if I had stayed, it would have been a downward spiral. So yes, it was a failure for me personally, but what I gained from it was, I had my health back. And it took a while for my mental health to get back to baseline, where I went, you know what, the dream isn't over yet. You've experienced this. You know what you don't want. That in itself is a very valuable lesson, because you know what the real world is like in Hollywood. And it's not as great as I thought it would be. When I was 16, I couldn't wait to get out. I couldn't wait to go to Hollywood, get on this film set, live this amazing film life. And it was a great reality check. So when I came back to Australia, I wanted nothing to do with film. I was a photographer and I love photography, and I had started my own photography business before leaving to go to Vancouver, and I just kind of settled. I settled in a relationship. I settled in a new way of living. And to me, at the time, I felt like this is all you deserve, Kelly. So settle. Hollywood's never going to happen. You've tried it. Just settle down. Like, it's not worth chasing after. This is what you deserve. Stay. And I got down on myself, like, big time.
Wow. Yeah, those are some big words. They definitely were, and especially for someone who has been like up here, and
yeah,
you realize some pretty massive life lessons in there, and you were vulnerable enough to actually say, you know what, I'm doing this for the greater good, for my mental wellness and for my health in the long term. And then but yeah, you're going to go through those lows and that, like, oh well, this is it. You didn't make it. I'm a failure. Going back to that childhood, like you were talking about, you're saying like where you needed that approval, where you needed that you'd like to prove to people. Like, yeah, that would have been a pretty dark place.
Yeah, and I was very unfamiliar with mental health. Like, even at that time, I not going to lie, I didn't understand mental health at all. I did not know what anxiety was. I didn't know what depression was. But what I saw around me was unhappy people. I was unable to identify that these people potentially are struggling with mental illness. They have mental health concerns. I did not see that. I only saw that these people looked very unhappy, and that's not what I wanted. And it wasn't until I was back in Australia that I realized, like a few years after I came back, that mental health was a thing, because that's not something that is discussed in the household or on the army base. There's bigger issues on an army base than talking about mental health. And especially like going back 20 years ago, that's not a topic that is discussed openly.
And I totally recognize and like what you're saying there, and connecting with you there, because when I was going through the start of my depression and actually seeing what it was or feeling what it was, but not knowing personally, and then seeing it around me, and I'm just like, well, everybody's miserable. Like this just must be life. Like you're meant to feel shit inside and not want to get out of bed and run away from people. And then I started noticing that I wasn't doing things that I enjoyed anymore, and it was okay to feel bad. And you just get in that spiral, that downward, and it's normal because you're seeing it all around you. And that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to make these videos, and why I do everything with Heading Into the Light, is to say, you know what, it's okay to be happy. It's okay to look after yourself. And by creating these conversations, we can hopefully change that mindset of people and actually go, you know what, if you're on this slide going down, it's okay to just stop. Like you don't need to come back up to here, but just stop that fall. And so thanks for sharing that bit with us. Like that's powerful.
And I think on that topic as well, what you were just saying, I think a lot of people fail to realize or accept that even if you are depressed and you have a good day, that's not a bad thing. Your depression isn't a thing that needs to be constant in order for you to be feeling depressed. Like you can have really great days and still drop down low. And I think a lot of people go, oh my God, I had such an amazing day. Like I feel so good. I must not be as depressed. So am I faking it? Because I just felt really happy. And a lot of people start to struggle, especially with anxiety, where people go, oh, I'm really nervous. I can't calm myself down. I'm so restless. I have anxiety. And then all of a sudden they have a really great day. They're enjoying themselves and they go, wait, do I? Because I just told people I had anxiety, but am I lying? I won't say it's imposter syndrome, but you know, a lot of people get into that mindset of like, oh my God, I'm so happy. And especially if you link this to holidays, people go on a holiday, they feel great, they feel happy, they come back, they are depressed, and they go, am I depressed, or am I like, what's wrong with me? And they can't place it, they can't label it, so therefore it's brushed to the side and it's just not talked about.
And it's masked so much around other feelings. So that leads us beautifully into, I want to ask a question. Today, from the photo shoot, sitting there in your house, who's Kelly?
It's a very good question.
I've got plenty of them.
We should dial my psychologist into this call. She might answer it. I'm not sure.
No, I'm not paying for those hours. Come on.
It's okay. I'll foot the bill. Who is Kelly? That's a good question. It's a question that I have been asking myself a lot. I'm wearing a lot of different hats at this stage, which is something that I'm not unfamiliar with, but they are so different that it's very hard to balance my life around the things that I'm doing. So with the Good Chat Foundation, it's all mental health related. And sometimes you cannot escape from mental health when you're also yourself working through your own things. So when it's your job and in your personal life, you're going, okay, I need to work through these things, it becomes quite a mess almost. Yeah. So you lose who you are because you feel that, you know, I have the title of CEO of a foundation, and there are expectations with being a CEO, and there are expectations that I put on myself as well on top of that. And I want to do the best for the community. So I need to be the best version of myself to deliver those results. And that's an absolute lie, because I don't need to be the best version of myself in order to deliver the best for the community. So who I am as a person, mentally, yeah, I have my days where I struggle. And I have days where I am so anxious because I feel so much pressure that I go, can I do this? Am I the right person for this job? But then because you're the CEO, automatically you feel the need to say, you know what, you cannot go to anyone else for help because you are at the top. Who are you going to without jeopardizing your reputation as a CEO? And then as a photographer, it's my choice, obviously, but as a photographer, I work with a lot of actors. Now, actors have their own emotions and moods and struggles, and you talk to them about it, but you almost become this mentor to some, where they ask you for advice and you give them this advice, but internally you go, I have no idea how you can handle what you are telling me, because if I'm in that situation, I'd be a crying mess on the floor right now. So you lose who you are, because you have to be strong for others, and you have to uphold your title as CEO and do your job. And on top of that, you get your normal life pressures. Like, everyone has to pay bills. We're in the middle of a crisis. People are changing. There are moments, like my family lives in Europe, obviously. So there are moments where you go, gosh, I wish I could just go over and sit on the couch of my mum's house and just have a moment with family where you can just drop the mask.
Yep.
But then, you know, who am I behind the mask? Good question. I don't know.
Because,
so yeah, therapy is great. Going well.
I was going to say, that is a great answer to not answer the question at all. So well done on that.
Isn't it? Thank you.
let me put it to you another way. It's Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
All the good chat stuff's done. You've taken your hoodie off.
Yeah.
Who is Kelly sitting on the couch?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think during those moments, I overthink. Absolutely, 100%. Like, I will. For me, it's all or nothing. So if I am, well, you know, if I am all in, if I on a Saturday sit on the couch, I can be watching a television series and my brain will still go. So my friends have this, when they hear this, they will laugh, but they say that I have a lot of compartments in my brain, and there have been moments where my Saturday afternoon is meant to be relaxing and I still feel the need to achieve something. Like, I can't sit, I'm not the type of person that sits there and feel good about just simply watching a television series and relax, so to speak. So I can be writing a business plan, watch a television series on my time off, and feel like, this is Kelly. This is just who I am. I just have to be active, because if I'm not engaging my brain, then I don't know who I am. But as long as my brain is engaged, in my this a go-getter that is a motivated individual.
So
you repeat that?
Yeah, you cut out a little bit then.
So I can't stop. Like, you know, ideally my Saturday afternoon, there is just never nothing. Like, I will sit there and I will overthink. I will sit there with my thoughts. I will feel like a failure. There's all these emotions that will arise, and I will start to process my week. That's my Saturday.
Yeah, okay. But you know what? There was a lot of focus there on you, which is where I was going to, because that other sentence before, when I asked who Kelly was, everything was everybody else. So we're starting to
Yeah.
get there. So I'm not a psychologist. I just love asking questions, and I wanted to know about Kelly. So you know
My
what?
psychologist needs to get paid more. Trust me.
Yeah.
Hi.
So then, like,
Yeah.
you told us about, like, give us a bit more of a wrap up of the Good Chat Foundation, because you guys are doing amazing stuff. I want to help get this word out about the Good Chat. So elevator pitch me, go.
So, yeah, haven't done that one before.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
yeah,
For all our viewers out there that want to get involved, no.
yeah, go to the website. No, so the Good Chat Foundation predominantly focuses on improving therapy outcomes for youth under 25. And what we mean by that is we will sponsor them for 12 months into a sporting program. And that sporting program can be to any sporting club of their choosing. So if they are in a position to play footy, like physically, have the ability to play sports, then we will facilitate that. So we use sport as a vehicle to improve mental health. And we take referrals only, because the most important thing for us is that mental health therapy will help you through, your trauma or through your mental health challenges and concerns. But in combination with sport, you also physically have an outlet, and that combination can drastically improve overall well-being, as well as life expectancy, because the ability for sport to build protective factors is so huge that you don't necessarily find that anywhere else. In school, there's peer pressure. Yes, there is peer pressure in sport, except you choose your sport. So you choose your environment, and through sport, you can build protective factors such as a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose, and you can create supportive relationships, which as a result of that can actually prevent suicide, reduce anxiety and depression, and create an environment where a child or a young adult can actually be free. Because for us, like, we work with families from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. The financial pressure for families that have, a child, most families have 2 or more children.
Mm-hmm.
And for a child to play sport, you're looking at an average of $1,100. For a lot of families, that comes down to, we need to put food on the table. We need to pay for school fees. These are kids. They are growing. They need new clothes almost every 2-3 months. If they then on top of that need to play sports, they will need to get there. So that's an increase in fuel cost. It's an increase in food consumption. There's a lot going on for a family. And if we add financial pressure to a family household, that stress filters down to the children, and that then increases depression. So if you look at the average cost of therapy, that's not a sustainable environment to then also provide sporting opportunities. So what we've done with the Good Chat Foundation is we have identified these households that can't afford sports and therapy, but they desperately need it, because these are kids that are at risk. And if we can save even one life, well, I mean, that's amazing.
Magic. And that's why when I first found out about the Good Chat Foundation and found out about what you're doing and things like that, it's sorry, I said something pop up on my screen. And then it's saying shut down. No, don't shut down. And I recognize, call psychologist now. No, just joking.
Do it all again.
And I connected so much with it, because that's what golf did for me. And it gave me an outlet for the physical activity, but it wasn't just that. And it got me connecting with people again. It got me out of that downward slide, and I started doing something for me again, and I started talking and connecting with people. But it also gives you an outlet, you're right, like to actually do something for you. And whether it be, and this is my advice for people out there as well, and saying this from what I know, is that even going for a walk or kicking a footy or hitting a golf ball or throwing a frisbee or whatever it may be, once you get out of the house and start doing that one bit of physical activity, yes, it's not climbing the Everest and going back up, but it's stopping that slide. And that's what we got to got to get talking about more, and that mental wellness aspect, not the illness part of it. Creating the conversation around that positive, what can actually happen. And congratulations, you guys, like, you're doing an amazing job.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly it, what you just said. I mean, there is an outlet, because there's a lot of young adults and kids these days that are faced with adversity and inclusion. And, you know, they don't get the opportunity to identify as what they are, what they want to be. They are hiding, and they have to mask that. And through sport, that's not a factor. Whereas in school, it's a huge factor. It becomes something that people get bullied for. It's, you know, the way or who you identify as like, whether that is gender or sexuality or anything, it's something that in sport no longer plays a role. You're a team, and you're there for the same purpose. You either win, you lose, but you're in it together. And in school, in the household, that can create a lot of stress for kids.
Definitely.
And that's what we want to avoid, really.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll definitely share the website. What is the website again?
It's www.thegoodchatfoundation.com.
Good work. I should have told you to prep for that one, but I don't think I needed to. So. You know what, Kelly, I really appreciate you opening up and sharing some vital stuff, sharing the story about Kelly. You know what, we could talk here for hours, but your psychologist might charge me for that. So I want to finish off, and actually the constant theme through the series that we're creating is encouraging people to be proud of who they are and proud to be you. So at this moment right now in time, why are you proud to be Kelly?
This is going to be a long conversation. I'm going to be real with you. So this is going to open the floodgates for a lot of people, I think. Hopefully. I'm not proud of who I am at the moment. And that is something that I'm working through, and I am not bullshitting around that, because it is something that, you know, I tell every single person every single day that, you know, I am proud of what I'm doing. I'm proud of who I am. But in reality, that's not true. Like, I'm struggling with who I am, and at the moment, I'm not proud of who I am, because I don't know who I am. And I think that's important for a lot of people to know, is that it's a shit struggle. I don't know if I can use that word here, but
you've used it.
I've done it. I went there. It's something that, you know, it's more common than people think. And for no matter the age, like, especially when you're trying to find out who you are, if you don't know who you are, that's okay too. It's just having to take a breather and say, okay, I don't know who I am. And if someone asks me, like, are you proud of who you are? How can I be proud of who I am when I don't know exactly who I am? And I don't know if you'll ever find out exactly who you are, but if you have your own baseline and you can say, yes, I am proud of who I am, I will immediately link that to my achievements or to things that are measurable. But that's not the question, because everyone can give you a list of things they have achieved during their life, big or small, and say, I am proud of who I am because of this, this, and this. But I think it needs to be an overall encompassing thing where you are standing there as a person and saying, this is who I am. I accept who I am. I don't care if you accept who I am.
Ooh,
and in truth, that's not where I'm at. So I can't say to you, yes, right now I am proud of who I am, because that would be a lie. And I am extremely bad at lying, surprisingly.
Look, that's one of the most powerful responses I've ever heard. And what I took out of that is that you're actually proud because you're on the journey. Like, you are you, and you're honestly being so vulnerable right now, and I really, really appreciate it. And you're actually saying that the journey to find you is something that you believe is an ongoing thing, and you're always trying to be the best. I don't want to say the best version, because that means you're updating and things, but you're working on it. and it's okay
Yeah.
to be working on it. And that's the underlying message here, that, you know what, it doesn't get to a point here where this is me and that's it. By working on yourself, working on your values, working on your beliefs, and being true to those is how you be proud within yourself. But when your values and beliefs are, I want to learn more, I want to do more, I want to help more, these things. And I see that in myself so much, and that it is really gripping to have somebody say, you know what, I'm not proud, and that took a lot. So thank you. And I've totally resonate with that, because I'm at that point as well where I'm going, you know what, I need to be doing more, and I'm so proud of where I've got to, and I'm proud of that person who I am. By all means, the opportunity is there to do more though, and I wouldn't be true to myself if I'm not doing more and not boosting my values and living by my values of who I am.
Yeah. And I think that's an important point, because, you know, the issue for a lot of people is that you can always do more. But if you have your own baseline of when it's enough, then when you do more, it adds value. But it becomes an issue when your baseline shifts with you doing more. Because if your baseline doesn't stay as a baseline and you continue to do more, then you don't value yourself, because you're just moving that standard up higher and higher. So you will never be satisfied with who you are. And if I said to you, or if my response to your question was, yes, today I am proud of who I am, then, you know, I am adding to the stigma. And the whole purpose of both the Good Chat Foundation as well as, you know, your podcast is that we're trying to break the stigma. We're trying to have real conversations with real people. And in reality, if you as a person can stand in front of a group of people and say, I am proud of who I am and this is who I am, and your judgment will not impact me, great. But I feel, from a personal opinion, like, I'm not going to speak for a group of people, but if you are at a point in your life where you are so happy with who you are, then, you know, hats off to you, because that must have taken a lot of work. And if I said to you right now, yes, I am proud of who I am, then I would have been very honest and very vulnerable with you. And the fact that I won't touch on certain topics means that I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
And I think people need to realize that.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's more than okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the journey is okay.
Yeah. The journey is. And you know what?
Yeah.
You've just taken about 4 hours of therapy away from my psychologist now. So she thanks you for that as well. Because
I'll send you an invoice.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can pay mine.
Yeah, because you were just taking things straight off my bat then about that whole valuing where you are and not moving those baselines, because I'm shocking at that, and that's one thing I'm working on.
Yeah.
So you know what?
It's okay. I'm there with you.
Yeah, good stuff. And I know we're going to do a lot more work in the future. And first, again, I want to thank you for being honest and opening up and showing a bit of vulnerability today and actually sharing this stuff. I know I got a lot from it. Hopefully our viewers, listeners, our millions and millions of followers out there will get a bit from it as well. So any little catchphrase, any little tag, anything to finish us off today?
Good chat.
Good chat.
Good chat.
Good chat. I love it. Okay, well, we'll wrap it up there, guys. Kelly, thank you very much. And I'll put Kelly's details at the end of this video as well. www.thegoodchatfoundation.com.au.
Yep.
So there we go. Check it out, guys. They're doing some amazing things in the community. Thanks again, Kelly, and we'll chat soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'll talk to you soon.